Hello and welcome to AppSec America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for AppSec America. And today we are going to discuss the Oracle EBS project implementation lifecycle. Now, when you go to a project, you will be hired as a project, as an Oracle Financials functional consultant to that project, okay? And when you go there, it's not just that you're gonna go and start working on the system immediately, okay, doing the setups and all that. No, all right? There is a project life cycle, or there are phases that you have to follow in order for you to be able to deliver the project to the client, okay? Now, normally before even you get there to the client, all right, there are some things normally that the client will do before even you get there and start working as a consultant at the client site. And one of the things are basically the client would select the ERP or the system that they are going to implement. In this case, they would select the Oracle EBS out of other ERP systems out there, okay? And then also they will do project team assembly, okay? Now, with the software selection, they have to do two considerations, okay, before they decide, okay, we are going ahead with Oracle instead of, let's say, for example, SAP, or instead of JD Edwards or PeopleSoft or Microsoft Dynamics, okay? So what the client will do is they will look at the total cost of ownership of that system, whatever system that they want to implement, okay? They would also look at the business size or need, okay? Now, mostly these big multinational firms, they'll go with the top tier Oracle, the top tier ERP systems, okay, like Oracle or SAP, okay, and then like mid-level companies, they'll go with systems like Microsoft Dynamics, okay, systems like PeopleSoft, systems like JD Edwards. Those also the JD Edwards, PeopleSoft. Those are systems that are owned by Oracle nowadays. Okay, so depending on the size and the need, then the client will decide whether to go ahead and implement the Oracle system. Okay. Also, they will look at the cost of ownership. When I mean total cost of ownership, what I mean is the total cost, the cost that is gonna take the client to implement the system, and also the cost that the client gonna incur when maintaining the system. All right. Remember, just having the ERP system implemented, the cost doesn't end there. Okay. Even after the implementation, because this system needs to be maintained, okay, the client will still need consultants to maintain the system and support the end users, okay? So they have to look at all those costs before they implement any ERP system, okay? And normally all those considerations and everything else, those are usually done before even the client brings you on board, so that you can implement the project for them, okay? Now, the other thing that they look at is they start now, once they've decided, they made a decision that they are going ahead with the Oracle system, the Oracle EBS, they'll assemble a project team, okay? And a project team is basically composed of functional consultants. It's also composed of the technical consultants, and then the project management. All right. So there has to be a project manager, the person who will lead the project. Okay, will make sure that the project has been delivered, and of course there'll be the functional people, which means that's where you gonna go to that project as as a functional consultant. And then, of course, there is also the technical folks. And these guys are usually the ones who do any programming or development work. And then they support the functional consultants. Okay. So they'll decide on the team and then they start hiring. And that's how you'll end up going to that project as an Oracle, EBS, financials, functional consultant. Okay. Now let's assume you go to a project which is brand new. Okay. So you've gone there when they've already assembled the team, and your work now is to start from scratch all the way to the end of the project. So this would be the life cycle that you'll have to go through that project. Okay, for you to implement and successfully implement and hand over the system to the client. Now, the first step of the implementation is the requirements gathering. Okay? Now, you don't usually go to the project and start setting up the system just like that. You have to ask the client a lot of questions. Okay? You have to ask the client how they want the system to look like. Okay? You're going to ask all those questions, and then the client will give you the feedback. Now, based on the feedback, that's how you can be able to set up the system. Okay, you can just set up the system without actually asking the questions. Okay, so that's usually the first step. Now, the second step is to do something called fit gap analysis and design. Okay, now what is fit gap analysis? So basically, when you're doing requirements gathering, you also have to come up with the current business processes. Okay, as you do your requirements gathering, you have to come up with the current business process. All right, now what is current business process? It's also called assess process, and it's basically what the client are currently following, what the processes the client currently follows in their current system, the system that they are using. Okay, remember they're about to implement the Oracle system. Okay, but there must be a system that they were using before. Okay, so what the process is, how do they run businesses using that system? Okay, you have to understand what that system does, what the current processes are. Okay, now also you will, as you do the requirements gathering, you will have to come up with the future business process. Okay, so you come up with the current business process, and then also you have to come up with the future business process. All right, so this future business process, basically what you're going to be doing is asking the client, what do they want the Oracle system to do for them? Okay, why did they move from the old system, okay, to Oracle? Because they can't just move to Oracle system if the other system was working perfectly for them. There must be reasons why they never went ahead with the current system. That's why they want to implement the Oracle system. Most likely because the Oracle system does a better job, will be doing a better job for them. Okay, so you have to understand what exactly that they want the Oracle system to do for them in the future when the Oracle system is implemented. Okay, so that's the future business process. Now, once you come up with all that, what you need to do is do something called the fit gap analysis. All right, now basically what this means is this. You compare what the client actually wants and what the Oracle system can deliver. All right, so sometimes when you go to a project, it's not always that whatever the client wants, the system will be able to deliver what the client needs. Okay, so you will try to identify those gaps. Okay, what are the functionalities that you are not able to give the client but using the Oracle system? depending on what the client really wants. And how will you go about those functionalities that are not there? Those gaps that you are finding in your requirement gathering. Okay, those gaps, how will you, you know, how will you remove the gaps? How will you close those gaps? Okay. Now, sometimes you may have to customize the system. All right, you're gonna make some tweaks to the system so that it fits the needs of the client. Okay, and doing those tweaks, it's called customization. All right, wherever there is no standard functionality that is available, you will probably have to customize the system to be able to meet the client requirement. Remember, at the end of the day, whatever the client needs is actually what you have to implement for them. Okay. Now, with customization, that's now where your functional consultants will come into the picture. They'll help you with writing the code and stuff like that. But it's you who will be gathering the requirements from the client and understanding what the requirement is and providing the solution to them, and then you communicate that whatever you want to be customized to your technical people, and then you can come up with the solution, and they can read the code, and you can do the testing. So that's how it works. All right. Now, another thing as part of that gap analysis and high-level design is where actually you come up with the high-level design of the processes. Okay, so basically, what this means is that you can't really. It's very hard to understand the requirements from the client without actually drawing the whole processes. Okay, and when you come up with those processes, that's how most the business people, the people that you work with closely to implement the project from the business side, that's how everybody can be able to understand the processes. Okay, you have to design the whole process. Okay, there are tools that you can use for such to come up with such processes and designs. All right. So, and these are some of the things that we are going to cover as part of this training, not in this class, but as part of our Oracle Financials Functional Training series. Okay. Now, the next thing that normally you'll have to go through is something called CRPs. All right, and this means conference room pilots. Now, this phase is where you'll be setting up the system, okay, based on whatever feedback that you've gotten from these two phases. Okay, you'll set up the system based on that. Okay, and then do presentations to the client. Okay, normally this is done in conference setups, and I think that's why the name says conference room pilots. Okay, so basically you will do the presentations to the client. You'll show them exactly how the functionalities will work. Okay, you can have as many sessions as you can. All right, depending on how big the project is. Okay, each project is unique. All right. So you'll have those sessions where you're gonna what you're gonna be doing is doing presentations to the client on how the system will be working for them based on the setup that you've done. Okay, and then the client will critique, will find out whether these, you have discussions with the client, and they'll check and see whether this is actually what they want. Okay, they'll give you feedback. If there's any changes, you'll go back and change again. Okay, or maybe gather more requirements and try to do the setups one more time. Okay, that's how it works. All right. Now, the next phase is usually the testing. Okay. Now, there's different ways of testing the system. All right. Now, there's something called UAT, user acceptance testing. Now, before the users of the system start using the system, once the system has been handed over to the client, these users, they'll have to test it and actually give an approval. Okay, So you as a consultant, you will do your own testing, okay, within your team, consulting team, all right? You've set up the system. Okay, you presented the demos to the client. Everyone agrees on all those things, whatever has been set up. Now it's for you now to do the testing as a consultant. So you do the testing, and once the testing is done, once you do the testing from your end, then you normally also have to hand over the system to the end users, the people who are going to be using this system on a day-to-day basis once the implementation is done, so that those guys, they can test it. And these are mostly people from the business side. Okay, so it's called user acceptance testing. All right, they have you. First of all, you will train them. If this is this is a fresh implementation, they've never used Oracle before, it's your responsibility as a consultant to train the end users, make sure they understand the system, and then also that they can test the system. All right. And then once they test, they'll say whether the system is working based on what the expectation was. All right. Now, as part of testing, another thing that you need to understand is something called system integrated testing. All right. Now, system integrated testing is where you test the processes of the system. Okay. Remember, when you're going to implement the Oracle EBS system for client, you're going to be implementing different modules. It's not just like you're just going to implement just one module. Let's say, for example, general ledger. All right. Most likely, you'll be implementing other modules within the Oracle EBS. For example, you can go to a client and implement general ledger, accounts payables, purchasing, and fixed assets and receivables. Okay. Now, if you're implementing all those modules, you have to make sure that you've tested each and every component of the whole EBS suite, the whole suite that the client is implementing. You have to make sure that you've tested all those modules or components and make sure that everything is working. Okay, remember all these modules, they talk to each other. Okay, they integrated with each other. Okay, so you need to test the flow of transactions from one module to the next, all the way to the general ledger module. Okay, that is what is called system integrated testing. I'll give you an example. If you are testing invoices, okay, and you are testing the whole procure to pay cycle. So what basically you will need to do is, if the client, let's say for example, the client has a purchasing module, they have accounts payable module, they've implemented accounts payables module, they've implemented a GL. Okay, so basically what you need to do is you will need to test a requisition and entry of a requisition in the system in purchasing module. You will also test how to enter a purchase order. Okay, how to raise requests for quotations, RFQs in purchasing module, how to enter purchase orders in purchasing module. Okay, now you will also have to test how to match those purchase orders when you are entering invoice in the accounts payables module, in the AP module. Okay, and then now you'll also test how the entries will be sent into the general ledger module. Okay, so the whole flow, and of course, if the client also they're using fixed assets module and there's any fixed assets related invoices that are entered using the accounts payables module, you test how those invoices will move or will flow into the fixed assets module, and how those invoices will be capitalized into assets, and how depreciation will be run in fixed assets module, and how those transactions will be sent to the general ledger. Okay, so the whole process, you'll have to test it. So it's called system integrated testing. All right, you are testing different components, okay, of the installation. Now, the other phase that you normally have to go through is something called conversion or migration. All right. Now, what is conversion or migration? Now, depending on what kind of project that you're implementing, if it's a fresh implementation, normally we call it conversion. If it's an upgrade, if you're moving from an older version of Oracle into a newer version of Oracle, we call it migration within the same ERP. It's It's called migration. But if you're moving from a legacy system, another system altogether is not Oracle, and you're moving now, the client was using that system, and now they're moving into Oracle. Whatever balances that you'll be moving from that system into the Oracle system, it's called that process is called conversion. Okay, so basically, why companies have to do conversion? It's because when you do an implementation, you really can't just implement the system and just have a blank, a shell system with no historical data. Okay, let's say, for example, you've implemented the Oracle EBS system and you've gone live around the month of, let's say, September. Okay, now if you hand over this system to the client from September moving forward, they won't have any other transactions that in the system. This is going to be a brand new system, right? But remember, this client has been in business for so many years. So at the end of the year, let's say, for example, the fiscal year for this client is is January to December. Now, when they do the reporting at the end of December, you gave the client the system in September, and now they are doing reporting at the end of the year in December. If it's a blank system that you give them with just the setups and they started using it, so what are they going to be showing on the reports at the end of the year? They're going to show balances at the end of the year for only 3 months because they started using this system since September. But that is wrong, though, because this company has been in business for many years. So that's why there's a need to do historical transactions conversion. So you have to convert historical data from the older system into the Oracle system. Okay, it's a long process, and actually that process we cover it in a separate class on how to do conversion. Okay, we'll cover it in a separate class as part of this Oracle Financials Function training series. Okay. Now, once you do conversion, then the next thing is something called production build or cutover. All right. Now, once everything has been approved, you've tested, you've done the conversion of data, and everything looks fine, then the next thing is to actually prepare now for the go live. Okay, and how do you do that? You have to identify when you're going to have the go live, okay, and who is going to do what task. Okay, there's a lot of things that are supposed to be done before the go live date. Okay, a lot. Okay, and you have to come up with all all the tasks that needs to be completed. Okay, before even you get to that go live date. Okay, and also you have to prepare all the setups. You have to make sure everything is in place. Okay, because what's going to happen is during the go live, you'll have to set up the system based on what was approved in the testing phase. Okay, so whatever was tested and approved and whatever was converted as historical transactions, whatever was approved here would be the one that would be prepared for go live setup. Okay, so you'll have to make sure that you have all the documentation. You'll have all the files ready, whatever you're going to convert, so that now during the go live weekend, then you can be able to perform the go live, do all the setups in the production environment. Okay, so this production build or cutover is basically the preparations, what you need to do, all right, as far as preparing for the go live is concerned. All right, now what is go live? Go live is basically the time where now you set up the system in the production environment. Okay, we've talked about production environment before in our series of this training. And basically, this is the instance or the environment that the client will be using moving forward. okay, on a day-to-day basis. And go live, go live is normally done over the weekend. Okay, it's called the go live weekend. So you as a consultant and everyone else in the project, you will go and implement everything that you've already tested. You'll implement it in the production environment on a weekend, on a go live weekend. Okay, so that on Monday, when now the business opens, on Monday they will start using that system, the new Oracle system, and they will stop using the other system. All right. So normally the go live is done on a weekend. And why is it done on a weekend? Because that's when businesses are closed. Okay. There's no employees or end users who are using the systems. All right. So that's when you implement the go live. It's called the go live weekend. And then on Monday morning, when the end users or the employees come for the client, they come they start working on Monday, they'll start using the Oracle system. All right. Now, the next phase is post go live support. Now, once you go live and you hand over the system to the client, the project does not end there. All right. There's you have to do support. You have to support the client. There's always issues. It's not like everything works perfectly fine. No. Okay. On an ongoing basis, there'll be issues here and there. Okay, so the client will still need a consultant to be there and to be supporting them. Okay, to be supporting the end users on a day-to-day basis. All right, so that's also a phase within the implementation, and you as a functional consultant will be doing that part of support. It's called post-go live support. All right, so that's pretty much the Oracle EBS project implementation lifecycle. All right, these are the different phases that you'll have to go through when you're doing an implementation. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in my next class.